Meeting of our Midtown Redevelopment Area Board for Tuesday, October the 8th, 2013 to order. At this time, we'll have our roll call.
Mr. Barco?
Present.
Mr. McGee?
Here.
Ms. Cato? Ms. Ford?
Here.
Ms. Hurd? Here. Mr. Williams?
Here.
Dr. Jameson? Here. Chairman Tooley?
Here. At this time, I'm going to ask if Apostle Barhu would lead us into our invocation, and I'll ask Brother Williams if he will do our pledge to allegiance and lead us in that.
Let us pray. Wonderful God, we come to say thank you. We thank you for this chance to come together as one body with one vision and one voice for our city. We ask that you will bless this meeting, bless all our city officials, bless our law enforcement personnel, bless all those that serve. And Father God, give us the wisdom and the knowledge to do what you would have us to do in the best interest of our community. We thank you for now peace. We thank you for oneness, and we thank you for unity. We ask blessings upon all that is done and said in your precious name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And just as a note, Mrs. Cato is here. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through the minutes from our September meeting? And do you have any corrections to our minutes? Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to make a correction on page 3, fourth paragraph. The boundaries of Midtown needed to be looked at because some of the people were not in Midtown, not because they were not in Midtown, but it is often mentioned that it is Midtown in the news and through other people, and it is not Midtown. So that's why it was mentioned that the boundaries needed to be looked at.
Okay.
Not the walking.
What paragraph is that?
Paragraph 4, the last sentence.
Any other corrections? I do need to make mention on page 4, under code enforcement, that should be south of 640 Marion Street. That's under code enforcement, the first paragraph. South of, rather than at 640 Marion Street. Any other corrections? I will entertain a motion then to accept our minutes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes of September the 10th, 2013 with the necessary corrections.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we accept the minutes for the meeting of September 10th, 2013 with any necessary corrections. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. The minutes are approved. We are ready for our staff report, and I see Captain Blanchard is here with us.
I am. Like I'm the only one here. That means I can have plenty of talk time, right? First of all, how's everybody doing?
Doing well.
We're getting ready for a busy time in the city, as you all well know, with the Biketoberfest events coming up, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th is the big weekend. So I ask that everybody please use caution when you're out there driving, as we are going to have an influx of tourism and lots of motorcycles out there on the road. So please be careful. Let's talk for a moment about crime. I wish I had really good news to tell you, but unfortunately at this point I do not. But we still have time to turn the Titanic. That's what the chief likes to refer to. We still have time. Let me give you an overall. For the city, we're currently 6% up in crime. On the west side, which is my district, we are currently 11%. So you add ours with the east side, and it averages 6% citywide. 11% up. Let me talk briefly about some of the crimes where we are seeing a very large increase. We will start with, let me start with homicides. Homicides, we are up 100%. Now, whenever I put that number out there, people are surprised. They're shocked by it. But this is compared to last year. We had 1. This year we had 2. So that gives us our 100%. And though we can all agree that 2 is far too many, that's where we get our 100%. Auto thefts. I'll tell you what. Auto thefts have been killing us throughout the city. Currently this year we are up 22% in auto thefts. That is one of the big areas that is really, really hurting us. And I don't know if you all know this, but over 50% of the cars stolen here in the city of Daytona Beach had the keys in the ignition. Yeah, that doesn't help us a lot at all. Burglaries. Burglaries, we have some good news. Total burglaries, we're down 5% for this year, which is a very positive thing. Residential burglaries, we are down 4%. Where non-residential burglaries, businesses, structures, things like that, we are down 13%, which is a very positive move. Larcenies. Larcenies in general, we're down 3%. But however, car breaks. Here's another area where we are getting killed, is larceny car breaks. We are up 38% compared to last year in larceny car breaks. We happen to have, I just did the numbers for this CompStat period, and we had 15 for this 2-week period. Of the 15, 11 of those vehicles were unlocked. 11 out of 15. They are not helping us. 3 purses and a wallet left in plain view in these vehicles. 11 of the 15 were unlocked. So it is very difficult for us to get ahead of the crime trend when people are leaving their valuables in the car and leaving them unlocked. Shoplifting. Here's another area where we are seeing a massive increase. We were up 24% compared to last year. 24%. A lot of these shopliftings are from the Volusia Mall, also from the Walmart on Bevel Road. Every once in a while, Kmart gets hit. Target just got hit, but most of them come from either the Volusia Mall or from the Walmart on Bevel Road. Let's see. Robberies. Armed robberies, we were up 39% compared to last year. Once again, 39% is a staggering number. However, if you look year-to-date last year, we had 33, and this year we are at 46. So you can see that's where we come up with our 39% number. However, strong arm robberies, we were actually down by 3% in strong arms, which is a positive direction. Ag assaults, we're up 4%. Sexual batteries. Sexual batteries, we were up 38%. Once again, this is a very large number. Where compared to last year, we were at 8%. This year, we were at 11%. So we have 3 more than this time last year. Sexual batteries on children. This is a positive. We are a positive that we are down by 8% compared to last year. So that's going in the right direction. Overall, it gives us an average of the west side being up 11%. 11%. Now, we had a really good CompStat period 2 weeks ago. We're looking at another good one, and I'm expecting 11% to drop, at least 1% to 10%. Now, there are a couple things in our favor. One of which is that we are coming up into the winter months, and crime traditionally slows down in the winter months. Now, whether this is because burglars or car thieves do not want to go out in the cold weather, but we tend to see a trend going down. In years past, A lot of people would expect right around the holiday season for it to really spike upwards. We haven't seen that, so we're hoping if we can maintain the trends we've seen in years past with crime going down in the winter months and not spiking high during the holidays, I'm hoping that we can come in with a negative number before the end of the year. That's our hope. But with that being said, I will tell you this, we are actively and aggressively trying to bring many of these numbers down. Some of them are very difficult. The shopliftings, it's a very difficult thing. We have been in negotiations with Walmart to try and get a detail officer out there, because mere officer presence alone will deter a lot of that. They lost, when they did their last audit, they lost over $4 million in merchandise that walked out the front door from retail theft. Now, to me, it seems like if you were to hire a police officer to be there at random hours, specifically targeting the hours where most of the retail thefts happen, and it costs you, let's say for argument's sake, $50,000 a year, but it saves you $1 million worth of merchandise, to me that seemed like simple math. However, as I was told, the losses that they incur from retail theft help them with their taxes immensely. That's what I was told by a bookkeeper. And there's possibly some truth to it. I don't know. So, what's that?
That was in retail, and they just simply write it off.
Write it off, right. And they can, somehow it helps them with their taxes, as I've been told. So, they are not too willing to spend the money to hire police officers to stand there at Walmart, park a marked car right in front, walk the aisles, show some presence. So we are still.
That amazes me.
It amazes me too. We've had a management change at that Walmart. We had a great, strong rapport with the previous management there, and we reciprocated our help. They would often donate things for our needy children during the Christmas time, things like that. They would cut us breaks on things for families that were in need, and we would help them out as much as we could too. But however, there's been a management change out there, and I know the chief has been in a couple of arguments with management out there already. So we're hoping that we can improve things. We're hoping we can come to a mutual understanding to where we can help them drop their thefts. Okay, with that also, let me tell you that, as you probably most of you know, that the City Commission has agreed to increase the millage rate, which is going to bring more revenues through taxes into the city. With that, one of the things that they are going to do is they have earmarked an additional $500,000 to our part-time officer program. For those of you who don't know, every year for our part-time officer program, we go over budget. A lot of times it's anywhere from $300,000 to more, because the reason we go over that much is because a lot of things that an officer does can be done by a part-time officer at probably a quarter of the cost. If we have a part-time officer out there, it costs about 25% compared to an officer's salary. So with that increase, with the extra $500,000, there's a few things that we can do. One of which is we used to have a retail theft part-time officer who would come out on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and all their job was to go around and do retail thefts. And it was a great benefit to us, because if we can keep an officer, a full-time officer, out of Walmart dealing with a juvenile that stole 3 candy bars, and that arrest takes him 2 to 3 hours because of DCF, if we can give that to a part-time officer, I can keep that full-time officer out in the neighborhoods looking for drug dealers, looking for burglars, looking for car break suspects. So it's huge. But I want to make some changes to that program. It's not just going to be a retail theft program. It's going to be what I want to refer to as a low-hanging fruit detail. And what I mean by that is not only can they do retail thefts, they can do transients begging for money that we see throughout the city. They can handle that type of call. They can handle the 18-wheeler that's parked in the neighborhood. These are things that they can do. These are things that they can free up a full-time officer to handle other things in the city. So that's very positive. We're hoping to get that back. We're also hoping to keep our truancy program going with that additional money, because as you well know, idle hands are the devil's workshop. If we can keep on those truants and get them back in school where they're supposed to be, that lessens the opportunity for them to commit a crime. So those are all positive things that we're going to be doing.
That's good.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between armed and strong arm?
Okay, an armed robbery is when they have a weapon such as a gun, knife, that type of thing, where a strong arm is when they take by force. Basically, you might use hands, fists, feet, punches, things like that.
Microphone.
Related to the car brakes, the 38%. I mentioned at the meeting last month in Orlando. I went to a shopping center, and they had this nice sign in front of the building. They had a couple of them, and in telling people to remember to lock your door, take things out your car. So if I meant to take a picture of it, but I just forgot to do it. But it was a constant reminder every time you went into the store that you need to not leave things visible. You need to lock your doors. Now, well, I was hoping that you could kind of call them and get the wording of that particular sign, and maybe businesses will be willing to help put that sign in front of their building.
That is a great point, and it is often used to help in this endeavor, and it shows positive results. However, places like the Volusia Mall won't let us put that sign up. They will not. We have gone into the Volusia Mall and put flyers on the cars to say, hey, you left your vehicle unlocked, your purse is in the back seat, you need to stop doing this. And we get phone calls from the Volusia Mall management, don't ever do that again on our property. Okay, that's private property, so we can't go back. There are businesses, and their reasoning is because they feel it's going to let the clientele of their mall, it's going to force them to believe there is a problem, which there is, but they don't want them to know about that problem at the Volusia Mall. They want everybody to think it's wonderful, safe, happy paradise. Come shop at our mall. So we have run into that at different establishments throughout the city. That's a great idea, and we have try to be proactive with them to go in there and find the cars that are unlocked so we can stop these things, and they don't want it. They don't want it at all.
Have you explored creative ways to kind of incentivize businesses to be more proactive?
Yes, we have. I tell you, we have tried to get things like video. Video is a great deterrent, especially at the Volusia Mall. Unfortunately, there is no video at the Volusia Mall inside that mall. There's none in the parking lot. There is video inside some of the key stores, and it's up to the individual stores, but inside the common area of the mall, there's no cameras. None, not one. And in today's day and age, from a liability standpoint, I cannot understand how that can be. If I had a property as large as the Volusia Mall and had the number of people that come there and shop every day, you could bet that I would want some type of video surveillance in the common areas, because I don't know if you remember, this is going back probably in 1992 or 3, there was a shooting in the Volusia Mall.
That's right.
Remember that?
Correct.
And I'm surprised that didn't prompt them. And with all the news media that we have shootings in malls and schools, I'm shocked, but it's very difficult to get people to spend their money.
So
It
you're
is.
saying that there's no outside cameras?
Not a one.
Because they have a sign, I know, on the side by dealers that says there are cameras. So that's false, what they put up.
Well, there's cameras in Dillard's.
No, on the outside.
Well, yeah, but they focus out those doors at Dillard's.
Oh, okay.
And you can see, like, you know the overhang? You can see that part, but there's nothing out there. No, nothing, there's no video equipment that the Volusia Mall itself, the property, has or monitors or owns, which is unfortunate. Bethune-Cookman,
They do, yeah.
they have great video out there.
Yeah.
And something happens, even out on their roadways, we go to them and, hey, do you have, and they say, here you go, here's the video, and we've solved a lot of crime based upon what they have. And we have a great working relationship with Bethune-Cookman, and they help us, we help them. It's a really wonderful, I wish we had that type of relationship with everybody, but unfortunately we don't. And we've used their video quite a few times. We just had an incident, it actually happened on their ball field, on their football field, where a subject pulled a gun and pointed at another student. And because of their video, we were able to identify and go forward, and that person's going to be arrested. So,
They also employ the program where security does go around. If they walk around and they see a purse or something that's visible, they will stick something on your car. You know.
That's great. That's great, because especially in an area where Bethune-Cookman has students from all over the country. So a lot of these students come from places where there is no crime, where they park their car in their driveway and leave the keys in the ignition because nothing happens. So they come down here thinking that the world is like that, and unfortunately it's not. So it is great that they have that program because of all the diversity of the students from all over the country. It's a very positive thing.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the majority of your car break-ins are in shopping centers or half and half residential?
You know, I can tell you from this week, it kind of trends. I would say that based upon this year, I would say most of them happen in shopping centers and things like that. We do get them, like not this past CompStat period, but the time before that, somebody went into Pelican Bay and they hit 11 cars in driveways. Most of them were open, yes, and they also did it out in 47 zone. Where was that one? But they pull in and they hit 6 or 7 vehicles as well. But that, we think, is a group of people who are driving around with stolen cars. And as I told the chief the other day, the net is starting to close up. We just caught a group of 2 individuals from Miami that were in a stolen car, and that's what they were doing. They were going around breaking windows or unlocked cars, and that's what they were doing.
How did they get in Pelican Bay?
That's a good question. That's a very good question. We don't have an answer. They don't have an answer. It is a gated community with a guard 24/7.
Lead me to believe that that's an inside job.
It could be. It could be. However, here's what we don't know is we don't know how how well the security checks are out there at that gate. You know, we do know that with the amount of cars that were broken into, it could have been somebody that parked outside, and there's plenty of places to get in there on foot without going through those. So it could be that they went in on foot and hit these 11 cars. They were all pretty much in a row. Some of them were forced. A lot of them were not forced. And the disturbing thing is, which we're seeing a trend of, is a lot of these vehicles, even on this CompStat period, nothing's taken. They go through the glove box, all the papers are all over the place, but nothing's taken. I don't know if they're hoping for money or whatever, and just because nothing's there, nothing's taken. But we've had a couple during this CompStat period. But the big thing is, which I just do not understand, is purses and wallets left in plain view. I don't understand it. Maybe it's because I'm a police officer, but I don't keep anything in my vehicle. But even though there's nothing in there, I lock it. I just out of habit. So
We're having in line with the Christmas occasion, and in Daisy Stockton Park. Maybe the police department could have a table, and that's one of the things they could tell, lock your cars, and at different festivals, have that at the police table. That
we do have a police table at some of the events, but I'd be more than happy to try and get something scheduled for that specific event. A lot of times we have a police table where we do fingerprints of the juveniles so that the parents can have record of the fingerprints and things like that, and we pass out information just like that. We have a pamphlet that we pass out that says, please do this, do not leave valuables in the car, make sure they're locked.
Pamphlet, but you're not going to, most people don't read all that.
Right.
So just maybe a sign, a couple of signs around that's just, as you walk around, you see those things, and you probably start getting it in your mind that you need to lock your car and not leave your wallet in that period.
I'd be more than willing to explore that.
Could that be a
I would like a big sign that when you enter some of these businesses, it just, did you lock your car, with a question mark?
Yeah,
Did you leave valuables in your car?
In
Question
Orlando,
mark.
and I read about 3 or 4 of them as I was going to the stores there.
Sure.
And reminding me to lock my doors and not leave anything in there.
Well, as you know, we can reach the people in the community best probably through the churches.
Yes, ma'am.
And if we get in touch with the churches, the ministerial association or something, to ask them to put it in their bulletin
That would be great.
periodically.
Any help that we can get. And the churches are a great place because, you know, with the churches, there's a community within a community, and all of those people that go to church have friends and family that they can tell. And if we could spread the word that way, that's a great idea. If we could reach out to some of these churches and say, hey, can you please just put a blurb in your monthly flyer, whichever, it'd be a huge help. And that's just it. You know, getting the word out. One of the things I've been exploring is I'd like to try to get a public service announcement out on Channel 13. Whether the chief does it, I do it, I don't care, just to say, hey, do me a favor. Don't leave valuables in your car, lock up your vehicle, things of this nature. So, and it would be good, especially right now, or here in another month with the holidays to coincide, because there are certain safety tips that people should be aware of during the holiday season, especially when we go shopping. You know, you don't keep hold of your purse, park under a light, you know, be conscious of your surroundings, things of these nature. So that'd be great. Good idea.
Okay, Captain, I had a question. It goes back to the increase of the millage rate. Was any of that money earmarked for anything positive within the community, working with maybe some of the rec centers or?
I'm sure it was. However, that I don't know. I don't know about what was earmarked for where. I was just told about what the police department would be benefiting from that. But I'm sure with the millage increase, I'm sure they have plenty of monies earmarked for some of the centers here in the city.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is a lot, I know we're trying to deter crime and do some things a little different, but we are also taking away some of the positive activities from the community are not funded. There's nowhere for the kids to go, and of course, you know, we spend more time tracking them down.
Sure.
So if some of the monies or some of the dollars would be spent there, maybe the chief can look at that and see. I understand we have to take care of the crime situations, but definitely from a positive perspective, look at it from that difference and see if we can impact from a different point of view.
I completely understand where you're coming from, and I have a staff meeting with him tomorrow, and I'll be more than happy to bring it up. And like I said, there may be monies allocated that I'm not aware of, but he will probably have the answer to that. I'd be more than happy to bring that up to him.
And that, along with some of the pamphlets and the flyers and stuff like that, to the churches and to the communities and the businesses, certainly would. Every little bit helps.
Every bit helps. You're right. Exactly right.
Thank you.
I have one last
I'm sorry.
question for you.
I just wanted to mention that I'm meeting with the Black Ministerial Alliance on the 17th, so anything you would like for me to pass on, just email it to me.
On the 17th this month?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Let me just get my paper here.
And after this, Mrs. Cato will have the last comment or question.
Ms. Cato.
A scenario of someone going to the mall and taking things out of the car, putting them in the trunk. Someone sees that. They wait until they go in the mall, knowing the car is locked. If they smash that window and hit the trunk release and remove the items, people are assuming that because that's the mall, that truck that rides around flashing the light, security, and they assume that there are cameras in the parking lot. Where does the liability come in? Because basically my understanding is you're on your own, and they have security in the mall, but they basically just come and listen, and that's it. They may ask people to leave the property, but when it's a situation to where people are in danger, does anyone know how far that security business team, whatever it is they have, how far they can go on the inside, and what do they do if they see something happening in the mall? I mean, in the parking lot with the car.
As far as their liability, that question I do not know. What they do when they see something, they call us. The Volusia Mall does have a Daytona Beach police officer detail. It's Fridays and Saturdays, and it's about a 4-hour detail where an officer is in the mall and walks the common areas of the mall. They do have that. Once again, that's only Fridays and Saturdays, I think.
But the situation with the parking lot, if your car is broken into and they steal items that you secured in your trunk.
Right. I would say it's actually on the owner of the vehicle as far as the items taken from their vehicle.
But I'm saying they did the right thing.
Right.
Their car was burglarized.
Right.
Who do they go after besides filing a report trying to hopefully, I mean, where are they compensated?
Well,
Insurance.
the insurance company.
I'm trying to see where do you hold the mall with them saying they're private and they don't want you in the mall.
Right.
But they want people out there to shop.
Right.
They should have measures besides deterrence, because from what you're describing, these are just people in uniforms riding around in the car, but they're limited.
Right. They are limited. They do not have arrest powers. They do not carry firearms. No, these are strictly security officers. As far as the liability, without the mall controlling what you keep in your vehicle and don't keep in your vehicle, I don't see any way that an individual who has a car broken into, even if it's in the trunk, can go after the Volusia Mall. Now, here's the difference: is if somebody were to get run over, somebody were to get kidnapped, somebody were to get raped, somebody were to, and they didn't have enough ample lighting, they didn't have any video cameras. I think that based upon other lawsuits that I've heard about, I think that they would have a certain amount of liability in cases such as that. This is something that an attorney would have to answer.
Right.
I am not, I do not have the training nor the education to speak as an attorney. I can only speak as to personal experience, but I do not think that if somebody were to break into a trunk of a vehicle that there's any liability on the mall, that any type of compensation or anything like that could be obtained.
That's every business though.
Right.
They have no.
But every business doesn't have security walking around in trucks driving in the parking lot. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Captain Blanchard.
I apologize for not having a better answer for you. It's a difficult question to answer.
No, she kind of snuck in an attorney's question rather than law enforcement.
Right.
Okay.
Is there anything else I could speak to?
No, we need to move on.
Okay.
We
all right.
appreciate your time.
Anytime. Mr. Bryan, I will be in touch with you. Thank you very much for that offer.
Thank you.
Oh, just real quick, just as a reminder, Halloween's coming up as well. If you have children, grandchildren, please make sure they're well lit in their costumes. Make sure you inspect their candy, please. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world, and I don't want any of our community children getting hurt, so please. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Has everyone looked over the code enforcement report?
Yes.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
This second section that he gave, the code enforcement cases by redevelopment zone, lot clearance. If someone is aware of a lot that apparently nobody's taking care of cutting the yard and it's getting really, really bushy, how do you report them to code enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
we have some senior citizens in our Midtown area between Orange Avenue and Magnolia. Martin Luther King, I'm going to say probably up to Franklin. They don't have the means. They can't cut it. They don't have a lawnmower. They say they try to spot the people riding by, pushing the lawnmower or whatever. but some of them don't have the physical means to cut it themselves, and some of them don't have the equipment. So how do we not punish them when they want this done, but they can't find anyone to do it, and they can't afford a lawn service to come in?
Maybe someone such as yourself could give them some names and numbers.
Okay, is it in their budget? I said keyword, senior citizens. So how do we go about that when you stop and talk to them and say, look, you're gonna get fined by code enforcement, you need to cut your grass. Baby, I just don't have the money and I don't know anybody that'll come and do it. So what do you do before the city goes by because somebody
Advise
calls?
them to call, talk to some of their pastors. Now, you're asking us to resolve a budgetary problem of that house.
No. I'm asking you, where do we direct them outside of the churches? And I'm going to say this about the churches. I have nothing against any of the 52 churches in 32114. But I have a problem when people are going to church and being faithful and paying their tithes, and when they need help, there's no one around. And it's not about a yard being cut, it's a full circle.
That you would have to take up with the pastors of those churches. We cannot resolve that.
I understand that, and like you said in here, personal, but when someone asks me, I'm going to come and propose the question so I can take them back and answer. And I can't refer them to a church when they maybe cannot even get out to go to a church. But
still, that's something that we cannot resolve on this board.
What I'm saying is, how do we stop these people from getting a lien on their property when they want this done and they can't afford it and they physically can't do it? So I'll take it upon myself to solve it. I just figured with all of the overgrown lots, not only residential, but businesses that just go week after week after week. It's getting ready to get cold, it'll slow down a little bit. But who wants to sit and look at an overgrown lot decay and die? It's still blight in our community. It's just appalling that the way the homes are kept in Midtown, they wouldn't be kept like that in any other section of town. The city would make sure that something would be done. Okay.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Cato, if you would give me a call. We have fraternities, sororities in this community. We have kids that need to do community service. I do have a lawnmower. We will take care of the senior citizens. Just give me a call. Thank you.
Any other code enforcement issues?
Yes.
Just a second, I saw Mr. Williams' hand. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not exactly.
Speak into your mic.
I'm not exactly sure of the name of the street. It's just something that I happened to run into one morning. It's the street if you're going where Spanos is. That goes north and south, right there. Well, the situation where there's a salvage yard.
Charles Street.
Okay, it is Charles Street. There's a salvage yard right there, and there's also Spanos. And I've only gone through there one time when it happened, but I've seen it happen as I was on the International a couple of times, where the forklift is bringing cars out, and they sit the cars, and the forklift sits in the road, and they sit the cars out in the middle of the road. Well, at the same time, it often happens where Spanos has a truck sitting there in the middle of the road, and for 20, 30, 40 minutes at a time, traffic can't pass down Charles Street. And I was just wondering if that could be addressed. I'm sure.
Address that. I have pictures on my phone of about 25 cars that was on the side of the road. I called code enforcement. Mr. Lopez did go down there. He gave them to 1 o'clock to move all those cars. I haven't seen any down there since that time.
Okay.
Well, we did address it. I did get a call, and then we did rectify the problem.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, going back to the minutes on page 4, at the bottom, the second paragraph, I spoke about Martin Luther King and Magnolia, where they were parking on the sidewalks and not being cited. That is a continuation. That is a continuation in front of the record shop.
Okay.
And I did not get information back concerning the Johnson Service Station and the canopy.
Which we will make some comments on that later in the meeting.
Thank you.
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairman, is it my understanding that when all the streetscapes took place, that the residents were informed that they would be taking place, you know, to notify them of construction? But after the completion of those, were they notified of the do's and don'ts? Because I know cars have been towed off of Magnolia because they were so used to parking when it was just grass. But when they put the new sidewalk and the grass and the buffer, they continue to park and they come outside and their cars are gone. But now it looks like all up and down my Magnolia, it's worn. So they were educated about the process that was going to take place, but were they told after that streetscape was completed, you could no longer park in front of your residence due to the city sidewalk and buffer? And that's where that issue kept coming up on who's responsible for cutting that grass. So now it is, well, if we can't park here, why should we have to cut the grass? The city saying we can't park, it's their sidewalk and their buffer. So that, I think, is one of the problems with people parking, because if you're coming down the sidewalk, you either have to go in that person's yard or go out in the street because they're straddling the sidewalk. I think we need to somehow educate the people that receive that streetscape in their neighborhoods that, you know, it's against code for you to park on those buffers or straddle the sidewalk. And Mrs. Hurd, I did see the, isn't there a weight limit in the city for semi-tractor trucks, even if they unhook? I mean, some places you see weight so many tons, but Martin Luther King is getting a lot of where they take off the front of the semi, and I guess they leave the back somewhere, but they're parking on Martin Luther King. And they say from the sidewalk to the lines, there has to be 14 feet of clearance for a fire truck and ambulance to go down the lane. But these trucks are halfway in the lane. So my question is, are they allowed, first of all, to come into the area with the roads in the condition that they are? And can they just park there with such a wide vehicle on the street?
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I can't address the second questions about the trucks. That's a police and code enforcement issue. But I can address the issue about the landscaping on Magnolia. But prior to us even doing the landscaping, I walked all the way down from Magnolia, from Martin Luther King all the way down to Nova Road, talking with residents, and the ones that I wasn't able to speak to, I actually had a letter that I left on there in their mailbox, letting them know, and they had in the letter what they could do and what they shouldn't do, that this was coming, and give them ample time before we even started that process. They knew it was coming. They knew what their responsibilities were. I think the next thing is code enforcement, because a lot of these people, they will see me coming down in my truck, and if they see my truck, they will move because they know what's coming next, that I'm going to contact code enforcement. But they are well aware of the process and everything in writing. Even the ones that I talked to, I actually hand them a copy of the letter. So they are aware of the process that we had going. I will try to find out the answer for you on the trucks.
Any other code enforcement issues? Then we will move to our action item update, large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, DEV 2013-082, Midtown future land use.
Good evening, Jason Jeffries with the Redevelopment Office. I just wanted to give you an update. I think that's what we said I would do. Last month, you had already voted to approve this. It is going to the Planning Board later this month, and I think it was as mentioned at last month's meeting, we were working on an impact analysis that is now basically complete. They're just doing some of the final touches, but on it. That's being done by Lassiter Transportation Group, and you have kind of a summary in a memo to you based on the proposed map, which is provided in the memo, which reflects your motion at the last month's meeting. Essentially, the impact is on the residential, seem to be have a reduction on the maximum potential of residential units in the Midtown area of 128 units. This is just based on the land use capacities, but the commercial is increasing by 17 million square feet. At this point, we're going to proceed with the recommendation, what is in the Midtown Master Plan, and that's our recommendation to the Planning Board based on what was the motion at the last month's meeting. I just want to make you aware of this is the impact. This will be reviewed by the state. If there's any concerns, we'll make those adjustments. And we do have some potential concepts or ideas that if it comes back from the state that there are concerns. The major concern, if you look in the memo, is regarding with that increase in commercial square footage or potential commercial square footage is probably the transportation impact, although Midtown, like all our other redevelopment areas, is a TCEA exception area. So that's where we're comfortable with proceeding with it.
On the ledger, please refresh my memory on the commercial transitional. What is that?
Commercial transition is a buffer zone essentially all along the different corridors. Mm-hmm. If you look, it's on George Ingram, it's on Mary McLeod, Bethune Boulevard, it's on Orange Avenue. Essentially, it allows, let's see what if I have the exact, I want to say it allows a commercial development or FAR of 3 and residential development of, I believe, 40 units per acre. But it's just seen as a transitional commercial zone. It's kind of what's outlined and matches up to the Midtown Master Plan.
Okay. So businesses can...
Yeah, it can be it could be, and if you look at those corridors, currently they have commercial uses, so it'd be either a mix of commercial or residential uses, and it's supposed to be a transition between those more intense commercial districts in the Midtown area and the residential districts that are in this kind of in the center of the different corridors. I'm trying to, oh, here's my memo from last month. Let me look, see if I... Yeah, it's a floor area ratio not exceeding 3 and a residential density not exceed 40 units per acre. So I think there really shouldn't be a concern about the residential impact. I think the only concern will be if there's any potential, will be the commercial, what's the maximum commercial. And if you look at it, currently there's just under 3 million existing development that is commercial. The projected 2025 development based on, I think they're using some state numbers as the what's the projected development of Midtown, well, the city in general, and then how it impacts Midtown. And then also I think they took a look at the commercial redevelopment. Trying to look what the name of that was. There was the study of the where was that?
PMG study.
The PMG study is what I'm trying to think of. They used some of the data that came out of that in terms of what is the absorption rate of commercial development in the Midtown area. So they're looking at, by 2025, you're talking just slightly over 10 years, you would get up to about 3.2 million of commercial development, and which really only represents about 8% of what is the 41 million that's in the designated land uses. So the designated land uses way far project out what is the development potential for Midtown.
So, based on this, you're talking about increasing by 12% the growth market through 2025.
Yes. Well, you're talking about, right now there's 2.9 million, that's existing commercial square footage in the Midtown area. 12% sounds about what they're projecting over the next 10 years. And that's based upon what the PMG study showed, plus what was done in the city's last year report. In terms of projections, would take it to 3.2 million. But the overall proposed designated land uses show potential commercial development of 40 million square feet. So there's going to be a lot of capacity that's not going to be met by the actual economic realities.
So, based on your final summation here, 170,000 square feet of non-residential demand was allocated for retail. Now, that's 170,000 square feet. What happens with the rest of the square footage that we were talking about becoming available? And I'm simply asking that so that we know what type of commercial property would be used for that.
What they're saying is that they would see that being divided between office, university, and light industrial uses.
Okay.
Could you say the three? Office,
university, and light industrial services, which the Midtown plan does call for, especially along the railroad corridor.
So what this is projecting is that there's not going to be additional people moving in, that people in the area or residential housing, that the housing will stay pretty much like it is over to 2025. But the more businesses going to be in the area?
Well, no, they are showing a couple things. If you look at the residential units, they are showing an increase from our existing development to the projected 2025 to be about roughly 200 more units, which, that 200 more units reflect up to 400, 500 additional people, rooftops. But then you also got to keep in mind what they're counting as residential. If you talk about population, you got the university in there too, which is being really development, which brings population too.
Okay, let me tell you what I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning, that the residential area stayed pretty much like it is. Okay, but this implies that businesses are coming in. Now, these businesses are not going to cater to the people in this area, but evidently for other people outside. And I just
They could cater to both. Because you do have, these are major corridors, especially you got Nova Road and ISB, which are major corridors, and you do have within the Midtown redevelopment area, you have commercial developments, for instance, the Burlington that have much larger draw areas than than other areas within Midtown, which would provide more neighborhood services. So you would have a mix of both type of development.
Well,
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
so looking at this proposed future land use, and it's my understanding the commercial transitional, so Midtown will be basically almost surrounded with retail. And I mean, we're talking deep going down, you're talking behind the Dickinson Center and School Street, and, I mean, I'm just looking at what's proposed. And I'm gonna be honest, versus the ComStat report, businesses that come in, and they look at that, they get all of that information before they decide they want to come into that area. So if the population isn't going to grow, should the commercial outweigh the residential?
yeah.
Good question.
I mean, I'm looking at this, and it's just proposed, but you have this marked, and commercial is just all around Midtown, and according to this, you're saying it's going to increase with the help of the university. Why would you have that much commercial for a residential area where you don't have the people to go to these businesses and spend money?
Here's your mic, Ken.
May I?
It's on.
Well, Keith.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Could I answer that question? The whole reason is that we're trying to be true to a master plan that was developed and showed these land uses. So that is why you see the commercial in here, number one. Number two, a lot of these areas that look like they're commercial have residential mixed use,
They're mixed-use developments.
in there. So because they're mixed use, while I understand what they're doing with this analysis, we could potentially see a lot more residential in some of these as they're built up. They take the advantage of, on ISB, for example, looking more like some of the areas that I know Mr. McGee's talked about, where you see those 4, 5, 6-story residential developments above a commercial or office on the first floor.
Which draws my next question. We discussed some months back about the lots being a certain size and things we could and couldn't do according to the master plan as far as footage from the road and the width. So you're saying that it's, what I'm looking at can be used half and half?
Well, I'm going to just take ISB, for example, and it calls for assembly of property along there, that orange color that you see along there on the map, all along ISB.
Mm-hmm.
That's an area that's, you know, if you're going to make something really happen, with the setbacks, how you develop that, where you put the parking, how it's recommended that in our design standards with the master plan, that's where you can get a lot of density, but you're going to have to assemble some properties to get it done.
And that use that you're saying is commercial allows up to 40 units per acre, so it could be a residential development of 40 units per acre, or it could be a commercial development with an FAR of 6. So it could be, it's a mixed use, so or it can be any combination of those two. But their analysis is based on certain formulas that they have established.
Did you have something, Ken?
No, this is,
Okay. Now,
can reiterate. No.
Now, one thing, I know that we discussed it briefly at last month's meeting, but based on your key, I see none of the churches represented on here.
No, there's no, that's some kind of glitch in the software. There's no church land use in the proposed land use. This is picking up because we do have a church land use category, but there's none. If you look into the map, you don't see it anywhere.
Right.
Right.
Okay, but there is proposed church land use.
Not proposed. There's existing,
Okay.
but not proposed.
Okay, that's what I wanted to bring out.
Yeah.
The next thing is, most of down Wells Street, School Street, parts of Cedar Street, all Marco, well, the intersection there of Marco, all of that is listed as commercial transitional. And then once we get to Bellevue, we have quite a bit of the mixed use. And then when we hit South Court down to Fremont, it's all commercial transitional.
That is, first of all, going back to where you see that mixed-use medium, that orange color, that represents those town squares that are in our master plan, those little, the little square commercial nodes. And there's supposed to be a higher density of development right at those 5 squares.
Okay.
Okay.
I know there can be quite a few questions asked about this. And if you look at the map, and this is why I continue to say also, I don't know who designed the Midtown area, but if the white space there at the bottom, if it was part of Midtown, basically all of that would be yellow there. And on the main corridors, I can very well see on Martin Luther King, we have empty property there, but years back, they were commercial buildings there. So I guess I'm saying basically it looks pretty fair. It really does to me. And we don't know whether we're going to get those commercial buildings and things to come in, businesses to come in, but those places are really on MLK, MMBB, and places where they already have or had commercial buildings.
Okay, well, in some way, this kind of cleared it up for me just then at that point. I'm looking at this and it's saying you have a residential area that's going to decrease by 128 units, yet all this commercial stuff is coming. But I see now that, I'm hoping what I see now is that commercial, that new commercial ventures or whatever it is going to also serve those residential areas down there. But if you were trying to sell me, get me to bring my commercial entity into this area, and you said negative 128, I would say I wouldn't come in there if the residential area wasn't growing. But you have to also mention that there is another residential area.
Well, you got to keep in mind that a couple things. If you look at the chart, the first line is existing number. It's like today what you have. The next line down this chart is what is projected to occur by 2025, which your residential units are going to increase. The next line is showing you based on the existing, and this is kind of a theoretical exercise, but this is how they do it in Florida. This is what the built out maximum of this area is based on the designated land uses. And based on the current today's future land uses in Midtown, the future land use if it was to be totally built out based on all the maximums, you would have 12,000 units. So you got to keep in mind, today you have 1,700 units. You could build out to 12,000 units. And then all they're saying is, with the shifts by adopting this new land use map that conforms to the Midtown Master Plan, was put in place by the adopted redevelopment plan, your total potential is just reduced by 100 units.
Yeah.
But if you were still to build out to that, you still have 10,000 more units. So you're going to have, which, you're talking a population of 12,000, 20 more thousand people probably. So you do have more people to support that retail. There probably is a concern, there is, but on the commercial side, you're more than doubling the potential. Is there really enough residential to support that? And that might be a comment that comes back from the state, and that's where we might have to make some adjustments, and we could do that.
I'm good.
So I'm sorry, it's kind of it's a very theoretical exercise.
One of the reasons why the planners that we hired show you the maximums is because when you do comprehensive plan amendments, you have to show that you have the public facilities available to handle everything if it was built to the max. It rarely gets built to the max, but that's really a lot of the reason why they're engaging in this discussion of maximums. If this comp plan were in place today, every one of those areas colored as commercial residential, they could be zoned for mid-density residential.
Right.
They would be zoned on a case-by-case basis based on what's around them and what developers are coming in.
And really, based on these maximums, the only thing that's coming back as a concern is the transportation impact. Our roads just can't, wouldn't be able to handle it, and that would be the comment. Because actually, I think I saw, it's not in my memo, but I saw something come back from our utilities today. That was one of the final pieces they were looking for. And our water and sewer infrastructure is saying can handle it. Or I think I know with this board's discussed a lot. There's still there's the flood. The flooding is probably only the major concern in this area. But in terms of water and sewer infrastructure, it could handle this potential development.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. I know this has to go to the state. And looking at this map, will it help at all if the designer was able to put this sections in a color and make a notation that it's residential?
You mean what's outside?
Yes, outside
Well, the
of
state,
Midtown. This is another reason why I keep saying I don't know who drew this map of Midtown because.
Well, this is Midtown is determined by the blight study, so that goes back to the actions that were done in the 1980s. So this is the area that was determined to qualify to be a community redevelopment area. The state does have copies, and they know of what is the rest of our comp plan. So they're going to be looking at it in context of the rest of the comp plan. So they have that. They do have
and
that.
that's an essential part of the statutory criteria to review a comprehensive plan is how does it fit with the surrounding areas.
Yeah.
And that's important too, because if a business wants to come in, let them know that, we do have residential areas and different things like that there.
I think that's good, and that's important. It's also important to let them know that we have a lot of people that are driving through this area.
Yes.
8 million people coming through. Hey, that's a big number, and that's all potential people with money in their pocket that could spend it right here in Midtown versus somewhere else.
Question. Are we going to be discussing such items as this on our meeting on the 22nd? Is there an agenda for that meeting?
That's the zoning.
Zoning. Yeah. What we're doing, I think the timeline is that we're proceeding with this, the land use this is the future land use changes so that the land use in the Midtown area conforms with the adopted Midtown master plan. And there is a lengthy process to that. It involves sending this up to the state. Because from here, well, really after your vote last month, we're taking it to planning board at the end of this month. Notices will go out that's, are all statutorily required, and then it'll go to city commission for them to transmit it to the state. After we get the state comments back, either we have to make revisions or they accept it, and then the city commission will adopt, they will adopt those changes. In the meantime, we're also proceeding with the zoning changes. So you have the comp plan changes, and you have on two different tracks, you got the zoning changes. What we're going to discuss at the October meeting are those zoning changes that we as staff, and we're still in the process of preparing this map, that we can recommend can go forward based on the current land use, where if we zone to those new Midtown zoning districts that are presented in the land development rewrite, those zoning districts will not conflict with the existing designated future land use. So you're going to see a very, it's a Swiss cheese map based on where within Midtown we can go ahead and make those zoning changes, and they will not conflict, which is the criteria for a zone change. Then what we'll do is, after the land use is adopted, we'll follow back with rezoning the rest of Midtown because then the land use changes. So what you're going to see is, I think, like along ISB, some of these corridors where some of the major land use changes are, we will not be able to rezone to the new zoning districts.
I've written some notes down here, which it seems to me that as prospective businesses or residential projects, et cetera, tend to move toward Midtown, that we as a board need to see the extent of that property in terms of the uses that we've been so very careful to set up. And if we're going to try to assemble properties or encourage the assemblage of properties, for instance, on ISB, where, ISB is the specific area that can probably bring the most income into this development area. And it's all in these little bitty pieces. If somebody were to come along selectively and tie up, let's say, every 6th or 8th or 10th lot, and with some business, and in many cases businesses that we are trying to discourage, such as convenience stores, we're doing ourselves a disfavor, and if we don't have the knowledge to recognize or to help us recognize what's happening when someone takes a 50 or 60 or 75 foot wide lot and puts it in a specific location. So we have, for instance, these 5 sub-centers. I don't know what we're calling them, but I ought to be able to, if I go down into this area down in here, I ought to be able to get my leash and my dog and walk in a very nice residential and safe area up and buy a loaf of bread. And we have done that. We've tried to provide the service, these special places to handle the needs of the residents down here in an area of pleasant ambiance. That's to walk on. Johnny Ponder once made a remark to me. and it dealt with the number of convenience stores that were trying to come into the area, and we as a board were trying to discourage the gathering of people. And Johnny mentioned that as a people, the folks in Midtown like to congregate.
That's right.
And they like to get out on the street. And they like to walk and go up and buy bread. And if we don't do what we decided we were going to do on this master plan, and if we can't see that on the submittals that come to us, we're never going to be able to say we don't need that. And we can vote against something, whereas we don't have the final say, the commission does, but we can make our feelings known. And we're piecemealing this. I don't think we have a good understanding of what it actually is. Oops, excuse me. I don't think we have a really good understanding of what the master plan can produce and so effectively help this community. So I'll get off my soapbox.
No, that's needed. That's needed. Those are, now, based on what I gathered from your comment, we will discuss some of this in the implementation meeting.
You talking about the special meeting in October?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that meeting is when we'll get down into the nitty-gritty of the permitted uses in the different zoning districts. You know, right now, dealing with this land use change has been very theoretical and it's very broad, and when we get down into that meeting, you'll see what are the setbacks, and how they conform with the Midtown Master Plan and the permitted uses, which I think will be critical.
More than the board would be there, this board?
That's your meeting. You were talking about your special meeting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was hearing from what I gathered that Ken was saying, had we done that meeting before this came through, we could see better what would be implemented. But we do have that meeting scheduled. If out of that meeting there comes something that we're unhappy with, we basically are going to have to live with it or start the whole process over again. Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think that's as big a problem as you might think it could be.
Okay.
I think that if we just are made sufficiently aware of what kind of project it is and where it's going, and that if we know in a not an intimate way but a knowledgeable way what the intention was, that we can guide this thing into the community that we've all been working toward. But I think everybody who comes here to ask for site plan approval ought to show us where the 5 mini MINI commercial centers are. And I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I think we're all right, but we need to get more intimately involved with what this can produce. And it can produce a truly a very nice community.
Okay.
I think, generally you've been at the high level, but as we go in the details, that'll be a good meeting to just kind of tweak those development standards and the uses. That'll be the time really and it won't change. I mean, unless you're going to completely abandon the Midtown master plan, you can always just when you get into the zoning standards, that's when you can tweak those standards. If you just don't like how something is being presented as it looks on an individual, I think as Mr. McGee is saying, those individual parcels.
Okay.
So we need
Mr. Williams?
I have a question about the land that the city has that's available now, and about packaging those, putting that land together in packages so that we can ensure that we're more likely be able to get what we need where we need it. My question is there a plan that's been put together in order to make that happen? Because from what I understand, we're talking about within a couple of months, this land is going to start going up for auction or for sale.
We're talking almost entirely about the residential areas that you see on your map that are those individual lots that are scattered throughout. One of those areas where there was concentration of lots, surplus lots, was right down there on Whitehall and where the Thurman House is.
Right.
That is an area that was showing, well, we're going to redevelop the whole block and make it something else. Now we've clarified that that's not what we're doing, and we're going to make sure that most of this area is going to remain single family. It's been single family. We want to preserve the neighborhoods that are there, keep them intact, and not chop them all up. There's some that are so far gone in terms of some of those areas. It makes more sense to put into town square, develop between the town square and the railroad tracks, for example, along ISB and south of ISB towards Orange, where there might be perhaps a train station in the future. But that's the there's nothing in the going back to the surplus lots where we have much of anything other than residential right now that's going to be put out there as those individual lots for someone to hopefully build on a single family home and take ownership. That's the ideal.
Did not somebody bring a plan to us for like a preview of what they wanted to do, and it was a way of using 2 or 3 of these small lots? And was not Hemus involved in that somehow?
Yes, he was representing a property owner over there at Oak and Fulton.
Because I think that's something that we need to know, that would be helpful if we knew more about it. Because that plan to me looked.
Well, in that case,
looked good.
They did receive the variances from BOA, so it's that part's done. It's now just a matter of whether or not they want to proceed and make the investment and build there.
That might be done, and we know that it can be done. But if I were a prospective investor, I wouldn't know about it. I wouldn't know that I could take these lots and get some variances. And the variances will give us a good tool to work with the size of these lots. A 50-foot lot is, I don't know how wide this room is, but this room's somewhere is approaching 50 feet wide.
Mr. McGee, what I would tell you is a lot of what's in these standards, and when we get back to that next meeting, is when you'll see where you won't have to go for a variance.
Right.
in the future here, if we've done our job right and taken those standards that are written into the master plan, that's just not going to be an issue.
Well, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot as somebody comes along and wants to buy or wants to build a project which really is not compatible with what our long-term thinking is. And we don't have a way of counseling them differently. Because we don't really understand what this master plan will produce for us. We need to learn something about it.
Okay. So we'll have a good meeting in the next couple weeks.
All right. Dr. Jameson, did you have anything?
I was just going to say that we need to bring our plans with us.
Right, the Midtown plan itself.
October 22nd meeting.
Yes.
We can see the 5 areas in the master plan and compare it to this, what you plan to do.
Mrs. Cato?
Should be the same.
Okay. Apostle Barhu? Okay, Ms. Ford? Mrs. Hurd? All right. Thank you, sir.
So we'll proceed with, as you approved it, to the planning board, and that's also, I think, that same week.
Yes. All right. All right. We've got a request for professional redevelopment services.
Yes. What happened last Wednesday at the City Commission meeting at the end, city manager held up a draft, I don't even have it with me, but the draft of something that the staff's been putting together for an RFP, really was in response to a potential developer, real estate company that's out of Miami, that was brought here. They've met with staff. They've been working with Mr. Ivy, and so through that discussion, there was interest to continue to pursue it, and find a way to get them involved with the Midtown master plan. And at the end of the day, it was recommended that we go out and prepare a request for proposals to bring in a company like that company, could be that particular company, that would come in and help us with some of the things that we need. Number one, to take that plan and the PMG report, put it together, and knowing everything that's in there, say, our analysis tells us, given all of the things that we know, as a firm that has been successful, whoever that is, whoever we select, and they will assist us with making some of these things happen, assembling some of the property. But first and foremost is, where can we get some traction and get something going? Where, on ISB, Mr. McGee, where is that first block where we can start that project, that we have a vision of what we want, what we've seen pictures of, but we'd like to make this happen? How can we do that? And the other part of this is, whoever is going to be selected is somebody who has the capacity to understand how to has attracted the retailers that we're looking for. So we get beyond Charles and myself and others trying to do the work when we got a lot of other things to do. This will be somebody who's going to help us put all of that together, attract developers, attract retailers, and make things happen. No different than what ISB the Speedway is doing out there with their development. They just don't do that on their own. They hire somebody that knows what they're doing in that business and has done it, has a proven track record. And so what we're going to do is put that RFP out and let folks know that we'd like to invite them into our community. We'll select one. I hope it'll be one. It could be two. And we'll hopefully start coming through a process. You talked about interaction. Who could we? How are we going to make this happen? Well, here's a way to do it, and then we can have that discussion. We can have it here, and they can be bringing us information, and we can have a lot more intelligence about what those sites are. What is realistic? What can we get done? How can we put this plan in place? And the idea is that this will match up with all of the things we're doing now to change the land use, change the zoning, and move forward.
Okay. Now, Mrs. Cato, you...
I thought it through, I understand that.
Okay.
I was trying to see the difference between Hoffman and this group, but I understand now.
Right, right. This group is more into actually attracting the people in. Right. Yes, Dr. James.
Is the Midtown redevelopment plan, how should I say, an official document yet? It's accepted, has been accepted by the city commission and given approval to proceed?
That is the process that's going forth now. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we'll have even a more direct time frame that it will be implemented. Right now, it is actually being written into the land code.
So, isn't this thing premature?
No.
We could do it. We could have done this months ago, but it's a timing issue because it would have been premature 6 months ago. But we had to get the data, and part of it was getting the marketing data, get a better understanding of what the footprint is of Midtown, what it can absorb in terms of retail capacity, what kind of retail. And you look at that report, there's a huge appendix to that of all of that data. Charles has taken that out to the retail conference, and I think there was it was well received, and because that's how in that industry how they look at things. They're looking at numbers and crunching numbers and saying, does this market work for us? Could we be here? But at the end of the day, someone has to connect a piece of real estate with the product we want, the things that we need in our neighborhood. If we want a grocery store, okay, how do you do that? This is somebody that does this all the time, and they're going to come in here and help us create the marriage and make things happen to the point where we can get it out of the ground. Now, it's going to be a developer, it's going to be someone who comes in here that responds to a request to develop on a piece of ground that we have high confidence will actually be something we can redevelop. And we can start with places like the police station. They may say, you know what? It's just not in the right place. It's just that you can only do this, this, and this with it. Okay, we need to know that. So that's we're talking this could be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars to actually acquire these services. But there seems to be, I think, the political will to try to make this happen, get it done. And
one of the reasons it's not premature now is because the master plan is actually being written into the land development code. And we're in the process of getting that done now. So now we can begin to, for lack of a better term, market Midtown.
And Mr. Chairman, I think back to this word of it, have we adopted it? Is it official? The master plan is official. It is a part, an appendix of our redevelopment plan. Now, how can you use it? You use it as your vision and your guide. Okay? That's what we have. It's not the regulatory documents that we're going to be hopefully creating here over the next few months. But it is what we say and what, and this is what we want at the highest level. The commission said, we approve. This is it. So it's not just, here in this room.
Right.
It's the commission and the community. Let's go forward and make this happen.
Any other questions or comments on that? I think that is wonderful, because what it's saying is that we have gotten to the point now where we're about to see everything that we've been working for come into fruition. We're going to begin to find out what types of things we can attract. And you're dealing with people who know how to attract them. I mean, it's one thing to have somebody who can sing in a shower trying to sing something. But when you get a Pavarotti, it's entirely different, okay? So I think that is a great progress. We are at this time ready for our redevelopment project updates. One thing that I would like to address, I don't know if this is time to do it or not, but what I'd like to address is the situation with Johnson Service Station. We have approved them to put up their aluminum awning. One of the conditions of that approval was that they would take down the canvas awning. To this date, in fact, I drove by there before coming to this meeting. It is still up. We mentioned that as they were asking for the request. If y'all remember, I did say we were going to be setting a precedence now. And it had to come down. To this date, it hasn't happened. Yes, repeatedly. Yes.
There's another thing that I mentioned, and I mentioned to Dr. Johnson that particular day, and I've seen it happen. I've seen as they're backing traffic backing out to Magnolia. They're backing out, and people are coming into Magnolia. If you understand, if you're
right.
And I've seen it where traffic is backed into Martin Luther King, because instead of making it so they just simply go straight through and out, which is my concern, when they pull people in and back people out, then traffic that's coming from Martin Luther King turning right on Magnolia gets backed up right there, which is my concern. And he said that they would take care of that, that they simply keep the traffic moving forward, and that's not happening as well.
Okay. Now, and Mr. Bryant, you can address this, either you or Mr. Berger. In a situation like that, where the board has approved something based on certain conditions, what can the board now do to try to rectify what's happening now? Because the ingress and egress was discussed.
Mr. Chair, I did talk with Mr. Lopez today about that matter, and they have been cited for that canopy that's still up. and he advised me that they will be taking them to the code board. I don't know when that would happen. I did tell him that I would speak with Mr. Johnson and try to get it resolved prior to going to the code board. Next month, I know they can't go this month. They just had code. I think code board is meeting Thursday, so I'm not sure if I don't think it's on that particular board meeting. But I did have a conversation with them today, and they have cited them for that counterfeit.
Which Mr. Johnson you're talking about?
I'm talking about the principal, Dr. Johnson. Well, he is part owner. He is part owner.
Oh.
Well, he's the one that came in.
the one that came
He came and
forward.
did the presentation, so he is part owner. So that's whom I'm going to address the issues with. I haven't had an opportunity today to do that, but I will be speaking with him about that because they have been cited.
Okay.
Are we required to take action there? And did we?
Did we just send it on?
We don't,
Well, for a point of order, on action item, update large-scale comprehensive plan amendment, we did refer that on to the planning board and to the city commission. But just to put it in the record, could I get someone to make a motion to that effect?
Move that we, that action item update DB 2013-082 be accepted and the information.
well, it would be the request to amend.
That, that we amend the land use plan accordingly.
Okay.
So moved.
Well, it's already moved. Second?
Second.
Okay. Yes, sir. Unreadiness.
Mr. Chairman. I know Mr. Gross is going to talk about this later, but just so we get the board in the habit that I know it's no public people, no one out in the public,
Right.
but we just need to start practicing that we have public comments before we vote.
Okay.
This would be a good time to do it, and Mr. Gross will explain to you why.
Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
All those in favor, let it be known by the sign aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, and the ayes have it. So we have recommended that that be moved on in the process.
Do we need to make a motion that we request the professional redevelopment services also?
Well, that was more of a discussion item rather than an action item. The reason that I did that is because this was supposed to have been an action item. Even though we consented to move it forward, we needed to actually put it in record that we wanted it to go forward. And I thank Mr. McGee for catching that. All right. Redevelopment project updates further. Mr. Berger, you're on the floor.
I think we'll start with Ben, right? If we could,
Sure.
and he can address this one issue.
Just real briefly, the Florida law was changed effective October 1st to clearly require for boards like this board, before you take action on an item, that you allow members of the public to speak. You can impose time limitations, you can make them sign sheets, that kind of thing. It's a little bit of an odd law because it doesn't actually apply to a lot of the decisions you make, like conditional uses or rezonings, the things that I've referred to before as quasi-judicial decisions. Technically, the law doesn't make you ask for public comment on that, but there's other law in place that kind of has the same effect. So, two things. The easy thing to do is just and I think Charles was suggesting this, it's kind of like the turn signal rule. Even if there's nobody behind you, you have the habit of putting the turn signal on so that when they are behind you, you'll use it. You didn't really have to ask for public comment since it was obvious there were no members in the audience tonight. But it's probably a good policy to make sure that you ask for public comment before every item. Now, the alternative thing that you could do that would solve the law is if you took item 10 on your agenda tonight, for example, and you started having public comments at the beginning of the meeting before you took action on any items, that satisfies the law too. So you all can decide as a procedure, which way you want to go. But either of those would satisfy the legal requirement.
So in other words, after we have the Pledge of Allegiance, after approval of minutes, we could ask for public comments.
Sure. That would be one way to do it. You don't have to do it that way. You could still just, before taking a vote on each item, just ask, is there any public comment?
Okay. But I'm just saying that is an alternative that we could use. But I think that one of the things that we'll have to do as a board is a lot of things that we're talking about during these particular action items are board comments, and they have nothing to do with the action item. And that would help if we stayed with just the action item. It would keep the process moving, and we wouldn't lose the public.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that public comments be placed after each action item, because that would really, if you put it at the beginning about every item, we could have 5 action items on here, and they're talking about that, it'll just be confusing. So just put public comment after each action item before we vote on it.
That to me makes more sense. But I was just saying there is an alternative that we could have the public comments at the beginning of the meeting. Okay? Now, anything else with that particular law?
No, and really, a large part of the reason why I brought that up tonight is because there's a good chance that in the future meetings I may start harping on you, as I haven't necessarily done before, that hey, you should ask the, and now you'll know why I do that if in fact I do leap in there with the reminder.
Right.
So.
And just so everyone knows, I will ask for the motion first, then hear the public comments. Because based on parliamentary procedure, that's how we would have to do it.
Once the motion's seconded.
Right. Once the motion has been seconded, then it's open for discussion.
Then we take a vote.
And then after all the discussion, we take the vote.
You can continue to do that. I think it might be a good practice at the beginning of the meeting just to let people know. And I think you've been doing that if they do want to address a specific item, that they should
please sign
it. Right.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That is very helpful. Okay. More project updates. Got a lot of project updates.
Mr. Chair, these are some of the issues that we talked about. If you look through the packet that I have on the project updates, we talked about the magnolia trees on Magnolia Avenue. Took pictures so you could see that the dead trees have been removed. We do have a company that, as you can see, mushed around the bottom of them. They fertilized them. The ones that you see in the pictures are the ones that replaced the dead trees on Magnolia. So we do have a company that's that's maintaining them until hopefully they are rooted and growing on their own. The next picture you see is BCU parking on Lincoln Street. This has been rectified. Whenever I get a call about a complaint, I try to make sure that I make the board aware of it and try to make sure that you know whether or not it's been rectified. This was a potential accident area with all these vehicles parked on the side with people trying to get back and forth. I had a problem getting in and out trying to take pictures. So I did contact Mr. Ross at BCU, and I haven't noticed any cars parking along that area since that time frame. 855 West ISB. This was this came before this board as a project, and I did go out and look at it. It looks like they are working inside the building itself, but nothing has been done on the outside of the building. And I have made code enforcement aware of the situation with this particular building. The next thing that I wanted to update the board was, I know some of the board members was present at the Orange Avenue reconstruction project meeting. Just to let you know, we had a room full of folks. I walked down Orange Avenue and handed out letters and flyers to all the businesses along that strip, and they actually came out to the meeting. The room 149 that we used, it was standing room only. And they were concerned, they had a lot of questions, and they asked me a lot of questions when I was out, but I told them to come to the meeting and they could ask their questions there. And so they did, and so it was a great meeting for the Orange Avenue project, and I think answered a lot of questions that they had. This is a continued reminder, the next slide please, of the Light Up Midtown Health Fair and parade Saturday, December the 7th, starting at 10 o'clock. We're asking all the churches. I sent out a lot of letters to all the churches. We're asking them to participate. This is the same day that Holly Hill has their parade, but they are residents and business owners in Daytona Beach. So we're asking them to support their own city first. If you know of any businesses that would like to be sponsors, we're still looking for sponsors. We're starting to get in some sponsors that wasn't sponsors last year. Bethune-Cookman, I just got a check from them today for $500. So we're starting to get businesses that are supporting us. The health fair is moving in the right direction. We're getting calls from doctors and different agencies that didn't participate last year, which is a good thing. We had 35 agencies last year, and we're trying to get as many more as possible this year to provide services for the community. Our hopes is that the parade will lead into the health fair. We're starting at the same time. I will be in charge of doing the parade. Suzanne Grubbs from the health department is helping me put together the health fair. So it should be two great events, and it'll be beneficial to the community. So I'm asking you, if you know of any business, the churches in our community, ask them to help us support and make this a great event for the residents of our community. You see the tree on the last page of my report. I'm hoping that I can generate enough funding this year to put the tree back up, same size, and hopefully we can keep it up for the same length of time. But we do need funding for this. The city manager has tasked each redevelopment area to make sure we have activities for the Christmas holidays for our residents. So we had a great turnout last year. Everything went fine. I'm getting ready to start meeting with my committee very soon, and we just want your support. We really need to support the community. And if you were present last year at the Christmas parade, just walking along Mary McLeod Bethune and seeing the residents come out from the Halifax project area there, it was gratifying to me just to see the number of elderly people that come and sit out in chairs and enjoy the parade. So it's something that is greatly beneficial to the community, and something that we hope to do better this year than we did last year. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Since we have no public, we'll go to our board comments. We'll begin with Mrs. Cato.
Good evening. It's good to be back. I was away in Miami for a while, and I could have called you all and violated the law, but I said I would tell you all collectively. My husband had some surgery on his heart, and in this area, what he needed, no one could do it. So I researched, and we were at the University of Miami, and the first angioplasty, which stretches the valve, it worked for about 3 weeks, and after that, they were deciding whether or not he could have surgery. And they called us Monday. We were there Tuesday. He was in ICU for 3 days. They put him on a regular floor. And we're back in Daytona. And he's in rehab, walking, talking, back to himself. And he's coming home Thursday. Good. So for those of you, and my cell phone, I'm just bad with them. They tracked it with the GPS, and it was at the landfill. So, putting groceries up, I think, picking the Walmart bags up, I think somebody must have picked it up and tossed it. Somebody. Because I don't like those bags to build up too much. So when we went GPS at the T-Mobile, they said, what's on Tomoka Farms Road? Oh my God. I said, the flea market. And they say, but yeah, this is a big area. So when they really keyed into it, they said the landfill. I said, I'm not going there. So I have another one. It's not funny, but the first call I did get was from Mr. Bryant telling me about board meeting and if I would be here. So thank you all for keeping me in your prayers, even though you did not know my situation. Thank you so much. And all your hard work, keep going at it. And welcome, Mr. Bahu.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Okay.
All right. Mr. McGee.
The special meeting is on the 22nd, not the 24th?
Correct.
Correct.
That's it. We're getting there.
All right. Apostle Barhu.
I just want to say this is my second meeting. I'm enjoying it. I'm really, I got the vision package for the Midtown. I'm going to go through that, read that, really put things together. I think we have come a long way. Since I've been in the area personally, I think we have a little distance to go, but we have a great board. I think we have great passion to pursue it, and I'm just looking forward to doing whatever I can to help make sure it's the best area to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
I would just like to say, to pick back on what was said about the progress, and it's really, really good to see after all this time to actually begin to see the baby. You know, and it's gratifying and it's encouraging, and we can tell the community, hey, this is happening. It's moving forward. It's not just a dream. It's not just an idea. It's really, really happening, and we can show you. If you can come to the meetings, we can show you what's about to happen. But I'd also like to thank Mr. Bryant and Ms. Hurd for coming out to our neighborhood watch meeting that we had at the Dickinson Center last Monday. It was a great turnout, great success, And what we're trying to do is to galvanize the community so that we'll get behind the Midtown Redevelopment Board and also support the police to make their jobs easier, and also support the schools to make their jobs easier, and to remind us that's what we're here for, to put forth the ideals and the ideas of our community. And I'm honored to be a part of this board.
Mr. Ray, did I see where your meeting is going to be every second Tuesday?
It is every second Tuesday. We had a specific kickoff for last Tuesday. It was a kickoff.
Isn't it, Lynn?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
It's
Monday, excuse me. I get second and Tuesday, Mr. Second Monday
Well,
of every.
it was Tuesday in the paper. Okay.
Did it say Tuesday in the paper?
Yeah, it was in the paper Tuesday.
Okay.
Peace.
All right. Ms. Ford.
Welcome back, Ms. Cato. I'm glad everything worked out for your family. And I just think with the master plan and everything that's going on with the redevelopment, just think of the end in mind, what the great prize will be at the end. Thank you.
Ms. Hurd.
Thank you. I have several things, hopefully, to say. First of all, I've been here with this plan, and I do see it coming together, but we still must be mindful of things that's happening in Midtown. And I guess it's the little things that I look at that we must do, such as the 18-wheeler and things that's happening in the neighborhood that we must get involved with and report. There's another 18-wheeler sitting on the lot of Wallace Street and MLK, right there on the, what's that, Cherry's newspaper there. There's a truck there. I guess it belonged to people who live over in an apartment or something, but it doesn't belong in the community. And we're beginning to see more and more of this, and if we don't report these things, then they don't know. And I just cannot understand how the policeman been traveling down Bellevue all these months and not stop and say something. We must become involved. I noticed several stores are still opening up, and I guess they have their permit and everything. And I would like to know about the coverage of the windows. Who do I go and ask about that? I mean, come on now.
That's code enforcement.
Well, we need code enforcement to come here and explain some things to us. Number one, sorry to say this, but Johnson Service Station has placed a paper or something all in their little shop in the windows. Number two, there's a place open up on Jefferson and MBB. Everything is covered except the front door. I would like to know the code pertaining to these. And I'm not speaking of all of the other stores and things on Orange Avenue, Mason, and everywhere else. I would just like to know. Oh, it was mine. I would just like to know what to expect. And do they tell the people they can't cover the windows, or just what?
There's a provision in the code in redevelopment areas that you can only cover up to 25% of those
25?
Display window areas.
It looks like they have that vice versa.
Well, I think that's where the code comes in, and I know Charles has been actively letting them know, the code enforcement folks know where those areas are as well, bring it to their attention.
If we don't do it, no one else is going to do it. Everything is going well. I'm looking forward to December 7th, light up Midtown. And it's just a busy month this month for all of us, I'm sure, with Bethune-Cookman inauguration and other things happening. Also, I would like to say I got a phone call this afternoon, and I guess it's something that you don't really moan too much about when you know a person has lived a full life. My oldest aunt at 105 passed today. She was 105 years old. So that's, yes. And she was at home. Her children took care of her. Matter of fact, she was very active until about 6 months ago or so. But she was still at home, and the children were taking, the offsprings were taking care of her.
Wow.
That's it.
All right. Thank you.
Can I jump out of line?
No.
Just
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Williams.
just quick, and I don't want to take up a lot of time. When it comes to the situation with the windows and the only 25% can be covered, is there some way that when someone comes for a license that these things can be addressed so that, or is it addressed, so that
It should be.
It should be addressed, and it's sometimes a matter of education, but it's an easy fix. Some people aren't listening, aren't doing what we ask them to do, and it ends up going before the code board. Okay.
Yep. First of all, let me thank every board member that was at the Orange Avenue meeting. I've already taken care of that, Mrs. Cato. Let me thank all of the board members who were at the Orange Avenue meeting to deal with that. I apologize for not being able to be there, but I have to work sometime. Now, I am requesting as many of our board members as can to be present when we begin to have the Light Up Midtown planning. That's coming through our area. We need to be the #1 people supporting that. I understand that some of you may be working because I know some of you have jobs that you can't get off at that time. But please, ma'am, please, sir, get with Mr. Bryant when he puts out, when it is, because we don't know yet. But when he puts out the first meeting, please, ma'am, please, sir, let's go and support that, because last year it was wonderful. And we're giving, the people began to show hope, and they began to come out and support. Let's not stop that. That's one of the major things that we do during the Christmas season now in our area. Let's keep it up. Let's make it big. I want to get to the point where we can have the parade all through, start down at the boundaries of Midtown on the south side and come all the way through to the north side. March all through Midtown. The other thing is, I want to take this time because Mr. Nicholson was here last month, and somehow he misconstrued something that I had said. I do want to apologize. I'm not saying that the beach side is running sexual predators into Midtown. That is not what I'm saying. I was simply saying that there were quite a few that were in the area. I do know that there's certain things in place to stop them from coming, but we want to make sure that we recognize that there are not necessarily sexual predators, but sexual offenders that are in Midtown, and we need to be mindful of that. The other thing that I want to mention is that we, as a board, need to begin to market Midtown. I hear folks say all the time, some of you have heard the old folks say, it's a poor frog that doesn't praise his own pond.
Did you get that?
We need to market Midtown. We need to get folks interested in looking this way. I went and spoke to some people just in the past week to talk to them because they're developing businesses everywhere. And I talked to them about coming to Midtown. We've got things we can offer them. There's some spaces in Midtown that can be used. So please let people know that Midtown is available. Next, as always, I want to thank our staff. I want to make a special mention to our sound audio-visual staff because they do a good job. And we appreciate your work. And as always, Mr. Bryant, Ms. Grooms, Mr. Berger, Mr. Gross, we are always thankful for your input because we know that without you, it'll be a lot of stuff left out on this board. We are thank the staff, and those of us who need to renew our memberships, please, ma'am, please, sir, be sure to turn in your applications because some of us, our terms are coming to an end. And we need to make sure we turn in those applications, okay? Yes, sir.
One last thing, I asked the board members to keep Mr. Bill Shanks in their prayers.
Yeah.
He's been having some problems with his health, so if you would, please remember him.
Yes. Yeah. Mr. Shanks is a trooper. And if there is nothing else to come before the board, this meeting stands adjourned.